Hey guys, thanks for joining me. It's more Permasand Invitational content, and it is round 4. There was some uncertainty as to whether or not this match was going to happen at all. We had to give them a 48-hour extension, which frankly I'm not thrilled about. I really hate giving extensions, but I guess that's what it takes to get it done, and as you can see here, this match did finally get done. So this is the final match of round 4. In fact, one of the round 5 matches, which I'm going to bring to you after this, has already played. But in the meantime, we need to resolve round 4, which is what we're going to do tonight. And it's going to be Xray against Blightbringer in that final match. And as you can see, they are starting in black-white. Xray is going to be on the bottom for this set. He's got what seems to be a sand balance team. And honestly, similar sand balance on the top for Blightbringer. The specifics of what they have Pokemon-wise differs quite a bit. In fact, they only have 2 Pokemon in common. But neither one is going with hyper offense, super duper stall, rain, sun, any of that. They are both mid-rangey sand teams at the end of the day. So let's see how it plays out. Xray versus Blightbringer, game 1 in their best of 3. Xray, like I said, is on the bottom, Blightbringer is on the top, and Rotom switches out of Breloom, and it's going to be a failed protect for Blightbringer. Maybe thinking Volt Switch or something like that was coming. So Garchomp comes in, also on a failed protect, and then Fire Blast is going to miss on a Drain Punch. That's not a cool turn. The Fire Blast there would have done quite a bit. Going to set up Rocks, and it's going to be another Drain Punch. 31% this time, did 32 last time, same deal. Breloom staying full, of course, with the Poison Heal. Draco Meteor there is a nice switch up. Good thing he didn't go for Fire Blast again, but nevertheless, Heatran does resist that, and he's going to come in and be pretty healthy. Lando gets Intimidate off, and out it goes for Mew, making its first appearance. Mew, a very versatile poke, could have hell of a lot of sets. We're going to find out slowly but surely what we're working with here, and it does go for an immediate Will-O-Wisp, connecting with Rotom from Xray. Soft Boiled back to full. Volt Switch, meh, 21%. And here is probably an irrelevant Intimidate from Lando, but we'll see. He's probably just going to U-turn out again. Blightbringer anticipates exactly that and goes for his own Lando with the Intimidate. The U-turn there between the Resistance and the Intimidate is not very exciting, but now Xray goes Lando into Lando, and we see that lefties are not being gained for the Lando of Blightbringer either. So after rocks get established, so now both players have those, it is yet again a U-turn. Chomper comes in on Loom. It's going to be Protect, because why shouldn't it be? It's going to get a lot of health back with the Poison Heal. Draco Meteor, however, is going to do 77% here, which is pretty nice, but Drain Punch will get the knockout and put Blightbringer on the board first. 6-5 advantage for him. And here's Excadrill coming in. Protect going to get Breloom and Blightbringer out of the red here. Back up to 29% with the Poison Heal. Lando for the Intimidate. There's no Ghost to block a Rapid Spin should he go for that. But he's just going to go Iron Head. Now he's going to Protect. He's going to discover that it's U-turn. He stays in and eats the U-turn. Might take this opportunity to spin. Nothing that Blightbringer can do to stop that. Xray does exactly that. The rocks are gone. However, Blightbringer may try to do the same thing. T-Tower comes in, Sand is down, Rapid Spin, fine, but he's got to be very careful now about Crunch or Pursuit. Both very dangerous. Scald here, 25%, not a big deal. What he was really looking for is the burn, but he doesn't find it, and there's the Crunch knockout to even us up at 5 a pop. Now Heatran comes in. Looks like he's not stuck with a Scarf or what have you. He's just going to go for Super Power here after already showing Crunch. He's going to get burnt, but Crunch, ooh, it's going to come up short because of the burn. Between the burn, the attack reduction, and the resistance, all of those things combining to make it so the Heatran actually survives the Crunch. Obnoxious for Xray, and the burn continues to do more and more. And yeah, Ice Beam's not going to do it either. Xray is actually failing to kill this Heatran here. Couple of bad predictions in a row, and just like that, the Heatran actually takes the T-Tower out. So Blightbringer gets back ahead, now 5-4. Excadrill coming in, trying to finish it off with Earthquake. Protect, obviously. And now he switches to Lando. See if Xray can Iron Head there. He cannot. He's not able to make the prediction. He's going to swing and a miss with the EQ as opposed to hitting the Lando with an Iron Head. A couple of bad turns for Xray in a row. Blightbringer with the out predicts. Now Mew on Lando. Heatran comes in. That gets U-turned against. 4%. Who cares? And once again, we find ourselves here. And Lando again comes in. Can he predict it this time? This time he gets it right. He gets the Iron Head off and Lando goes down, finally. So good play for Xray, and that leaves us in a 4-4 situation, keeping in mind that one of the Pokemon for Xray, this Rotom, is burnt from before. And Mew has now shown a third move. We've seen Will-O-Wisp, Soft Boiled, Taunt, and now we know the full set. The last move is Ice Beam, which is what he goes for here, and it's going to be resisted and do very little. Volt Switch is going to prompt out Lando into a poke that he knows has Ice Beam, so obviously he's intending to U-turn out, and that's exactly what he does. However, Blightbringer knows it's going to be a U-turn, so instead of Ice Beaming into Rotom here, he makes the better play of Soft Boiling, so a good prediction for Blightbringer. T-Tar in, Rotom out, and Excadrill appears. T-Tar, unsurprisingly, does not gain lefties, but there's the Earthquake knockout to make it much less exciting, so we'll never get to know what the T-Tar was intending to do for Blightbringer. Xray with a quick knockout there, 89% on that Earthquake, and he's going to retake the lead now 4-3. Or actually, this might be his first lead of the game. I think it's been Blightbringer with the lead throughout most of it, so retake might not be the right word. I think Xray actually might be ahead now for the first time. Anyhow, Spore is going to be blocked by Taunt from Mew. Ice Beam's super effective, but it still is only mediocre damage at 39%. Sludge Bomb even less damage at 24%, but he finds an immediate poison, and Synchronize cannot poison a poison type. You don't get to break the rules. Rotom comes in, and Soft Boiled comes down. So Mew is pretty healthy despite that obnoxious poison that he's going to have to deal with for the remainder of the game. And here's Taunt on Rotom to prevent something like Pain Split, but instead what he gets is a Volt Switch. Prompts out the Lando that is almost certainly simply going to U-turn again. He could go for EQ here though. Yeah, he's going to take the aggressive approach. And, I mean, 32% is not bad. The poison is still ticking on the Mew, but it's not exciting damage either. And he does opt to get out of the way just in case the Ice Beam comes down. Lando definitely, with a 4x weakness, does not want to eat the Ice Beam that we already know that the Mew has. So Stun Spore from Amogus on the switch. That is going to put Heatran in a paralyzed state. Rotom is going to switch in, full para. That's a good little switch for Xray. He gets lucky that the full para happens there. He could have gotten his Rotom killed there potentially. Protect and Hydro Pump respectively. Obviously Hydro Pump there, if it would connect, would kill the Heatran, but it does get protected against, and he's trying to burn stall him out right now. Breloom comes in. That's going to survive a Hydro Pump, and we know that this Pokemon also has Protect. Could have died to the sand there if the Hydro Pump had gotten a little bit of a better roll, but it did not. And a good prediction there from Blightbringer, not going Protect. He knew there'd be a switch, so he gets the Drain Punch off, and that's going to get him that much more HP back. And obviously he's going to Protect at this point. We see that it is the U-turn, which seems like the clear move for Xray. So now Blightbringer has to decide what to do. He's going to fish for the 50-50 Protect. That's a bit risky, but he wins the coin flip. And now he's going to stay in and survive the U-turn. Amogus comes in, and that gets Drain Punched, which of course it resists, so it's only going to do 7%. But the bigger picture issue, Poison Heal's still going, and he's got Protect. Breloom can heal over and over and over again. Instead, he's going to go to Heatran, and as he does, Xray is going to bring out his Lando, which has been terrorizing Blightbringer throughout the game. He just doesn't have a good answer for it. There's the Earthquake knockout, putting Xray further ahead, 4-2 now, and Mew is going to be the response. There's the Will-O-Wisp on the Amogus. The burn, obnoxious, but shouldn't be a huge deal. Xray clearly with the advantage right now, but Blightbringer doing the only thing he really can. He's playing aggressively and hoping that he catches crits or freezes or a bad Lando switch or whatever it may be for Xray. Just going with the Ice Beams and hoping that he gets there. And Xray doesn't have a lot of options either. He's got to be careful switching something, the wrong thing in particular, like Lando, into Ice Beam. So he's just staying there and Giga Draining and just trying to do what he can do. The Giga Drains are doing pretty damn poor damage at just 18% this last one. Other ones have been comparable, 20%, 18% on the first one. Soft Boiled and Sludge Bomb, yeah, I mean, as it turns out, these Sludge Bombs do a little bit more than Giga Drain. The trade-off being, of course, that you're not gaining health back from the Giga Drain. But if you're just trying to go aggro, I guess it's Sludge Bomb. Mew takes the aggressive approach and goes Ice Beam. Down goes the Amogus. It leaves us in a 3-2 situation. And now Lando comes in again. Goes for the U-turn. Critical hit there. It actually does matter. It would have survived a non-crit. And I believe that's the ball game. The paralyzed Heatran is not going to be able to find a way to survive Earthquake. Xray clicks the obvious move. Down goes the Heatran. Down goes Blightbringer. So game one here in this best of three, like I said, lower bracket, so an elimination match does go to Xray. But as you know, the losing player does get to pick the second game, so Blightbringer has elected to take us to Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, Gen 4, which is here. And we'll just get right into it. You guys know the deal by now. Let's just get into the game. Xray is going to be on the bottom again. Blightbringer's on the top again. No team preview here, so we don't know what either guy has. But we have a Rotom and a Zapdos for starters, and a Will-O-Wisp is immediately going to whiff on Heatran and trigger its Flash Fire. That's going to prompt a Fire Blast, which is boosted. It's going to do a lot, but then the follow-up is going to miss on Swampert as he establishes Rocks. So an unlucky miss on the second blast. We now have Pert on Pert. Obviously, Blightbringer is not about to let the Heatran take an Earthquake that he's 4x weak to, so he goes to his own Swampert, and that's going to set up Rocks as well. So both players have managed to set up that hazard. Zapdos going to come in and step on Rocks. Spikes come down for Xray, so he's got the hazard advantage, but he's not about to eat a Thunderbolt. Gets out of the way. Clefable comes in, and here is Dugtrio. And if anyone's confused as to why Dugtrio is in play here, yes, this Pokemon was just banned from DPP on Smogon, but for purposes of continuity within the tour, since it has been allowed all the way up to this point, we are allowing Dugtrio for the remainder of the tour, and the way that they're able to circumvent the ban is they're actually playing this match in Gen 4 Ubers, because Dugtrio would not be a selectable Pokemon in Gen 4 OU, so that's what's happening here. But the bigger picture note is actually, even though the Dugtrio came in to trap the Clefable here, it doesn't have Screech, which is actually very standard on Gen 4 Dugtrio, and it's coming back to bite him in a big way, because what happened here is he got his Choice Band knocked off, so he's actually now severely lacking the damage to kill the Clefable. Now, the Clefable is having a really hard time killing the Dugtrio as well. It's a very slow process, but if the Dugtrio had Screech, he'd be able to kill the Clef here with the Earthquakes, but because he doesn't, the knockoff has made it so the Dugtrio just does not have the damage pending a very timely critical hit, such as on this past turn that we just saw. But he hasn't found it, and now the Dugtrio is just struggling and is very likely, almost certainly in fact, going to lose the 1v1 against this Clefable. And there is the knockout. The Dugtrio loses to the Clefable that it was intending to trap. That is definitely not the way that Blightbringer saw that going. I don't know why his Dugtrio didn't have Screech. Like I said, it's very standard in Gen 4, believe it or not, for that exact reason. When you get knocked off by Clef, you still beat it if you have Screech. But in this case, he didn't, and it came back to bite him. So Xray has the lead at this point. The Fire Blast here we see does way less than before. Flash Fire really does make a world of difference. Fire Blast again, and there's Earthquake, so Blightbringer further behind after letting his Heatran go. Now granted, the Swampert is on the low side for Xray, but Xray clearly with the advantage here, not only with the Pokemon Edge, but also with superior hazards, having both Rocks and Spikes as opposed to just Rocks. And even though Blightbringer did come back briefly, Dugtrio came in to get the revenge kill and bring the lead back to a 2-Pokemon lead as it was, and that is a 5-3 advantage for Xray. Though it should be noted there is still an unrevealed for Blightbringer. Maybe that comes in and runs through the world. There is some discharge from Zapdos. Hopefully it's the electric kind of discharge. And it does 29% to Clef both times. Soft Boiled comes down, no problem. Discharge again, finds Para, Soft Boiled again. Clef all the way back to 100%. More discharge, 26% this time. Knockoff getting rid of lefties. Looking pretty good for Xray here. It looks like the Clefable is a real issue for Blightbringer as a whole. Looks like he was very much relying on Dugtrio to get rid of that Pokemon because such a huge portion of his team seems to be walled by it. And that just prompts the question of why his Dugtrio didn't have Screech. I mean, I asked that before, but even more so now, if your team is this vulnerable to Clef, if you have this much of a hard time getting through Clefable. Now, granted, I mean, it's such an amazing Pokemon. It's just such a prominent piece of DPP in the current day and age. But I mean, man, if your team really has this amount of trouble, it just shouldn't the Dugtrio have given up something and had Screech? I mean, don't you just need it to beat the Clefable? And the answer seems to be yes. I mean, Blightbringer here is stalling out for dear life, and I mean, he's not in any immediate danger, but he's just nowhere close at any given time to actually beating this Clefable, even back-to-back crits, which is mathematically extremely unlikely. even that would not necessarily be enough, unless it were back-to-back crits with great damage rolls. I mean, there's just so many things that say that this is not going to happen. Xray does get out of the way just to be safe, but Zapdos really, really was not beating Clefable there. And Blightbringer just doesn't seem to like his options. He's just going to continue to stay in with the Zapdos for lack of anything better to do here. He doesn't want to switch something else into Will-O-Wisp, and he just... I mean, he's not actually hurting anything. We've seen, I believe, the full set from Zapdos. Yeah, U-turn Roost, discharge Heat Wave. So he really can't do anything meaningful to this Rotom or to the Clefable, but he just doesn't have a switch that he's happy with. I mean, it seems like Blightbringer is ready to play it out and not concede, but it just, this really... I don't know how Blightbringer can win. I mean, he must have a good last poke in the back that he thinks he can win with. He must have something that can either last poke set up and go all the way, such as Coon, or he's got like a DD sweeper of whatever variety in the back. He's got to have something back there that he thinks he can win with, and he's going through the motions here, just trying to drain as much PP as possible from Xray, just get his stuff as weak and helpless as possible before whatever it is comes in, and hopefully for his sake closes out the game. Because if Blightbringer does not find a way with his last poke or whatever to close out this game, Blightbringer will be eliminated. Keep that in mind. It's lower bracket and he's down a game. We see Rachi here, and I certainly don't think getting it burnt was what he had in mind. That's a bad start, but it's the Calm Mind variety, so he's not completely boned as if it were a Body Slam Iron Head variety. It is a CMer, so in theory, Blightbringer can win with this CM Rachi. The burn definitely sucks, definitely was not what he wanted, but there is a shot here. Lefties get knocked off, so it makes the burn even more obnoxious. The residual damage can be even more of an issue. But again, I can't stress enough, the Rachi does have a shot here. If it boosts up enough times, it can start taking things out. The problem on the other end is going to be the Dugtrio. The Jirachi would have to be super high, basically 100%, to survive the Dugtrio and the burn and the fact that it does not have leftovers. I think if not for the Dugtrio, the Jirachi might have a shot here, might. But I think too many things have gone wrong. I think the fact that he's burnt, I think the fact that he lost his lefties, and I think the fact that there are multiple psychic resists, including this Lati, including this Skarm, and that there's a Dugtrio on the other side. I think there's just too many things working against Blightbringer at this time. Rachi in this situation against most teams would have a decent shot, and I guess it still has more than zero shot, but the Rachi is good, but it's not quite good enough. I think it's too little too late, and I think that Xray has too many things going for him in this situation, especially now that we know that it's Roar Lati. That makes it even worse. So the Rachi can't even overly ever set up because the Psychics just don't do enough to the CM Lati, and he could just roar out the Rachi at any time. So this just seems like a really good matchup for Xray. I still emphasize that I do not understand why the Dugtrio for Blightbringer didn't have Screech. Could this have been a different game if it did, and if it killed the Clefable the way that it, air quotes, should have? Maybe. But as it stands, this seems like a really good matchup for Xray, and it felt to me like it played out the only way that it was ever really going to play out, especially with a non-Screech Dugtrio. This felt like an inevitability, and I commend Blightbringer, of course, for playing it out as he's doing. He's not conceding. This is a tournament match. There is money on the line. I appreciate that he's taking it seriously, but this one really didn't ever feel like it was overly in doubt. This one is pretty one-sided. Xray going to take it down without too much of an issue. Definitely seems like a favorable matchup for him, and he is going to win the final match of round 4. That's going to send Blightbringer to the curb, and with that, we can finally move along to round 5. Like I said, in real time, one of the round 5 matches did actually play before this set did, but I wanted to bring the sets to you in order by round. I didn't want to bring you round 5 content and then go back to round 4 content. That's awkward. That might be confusing. I didn't want to do it that way. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Please do leave a thumbs up and a comment if you did. And we'll move along to round 5. Only one of those matches is played, so we're not super far behind, and that set is coming up next.